They finally did it! They finally arrived! The Redcat Racing factory upgrades for the Redcat RDS. I have the front knuckles, I have the lower front control arms, the transmission, and the spur gear adapter. In this specific video, we're going to be looking at this lower suspension, lower front arms, and checking them out. Getting them on, what does it take to get them on? What does it mean for your alignment? What are the benefits of it? That's what we're going to be doing in this video. What's going to be important is before we do anything here with this front suspension, we need to make sure that we take some detailed measurements. What is the toe out? What is the camber? All of this kind of stuff, because as we start swapping these front suspension components, it's probably going to be slightly different, and we're going to have to readjust turnbuckle links and everything to get it back to the setup that you had before. Now, I don't have one of those super fancy setup boards in order to help me with this, so I'm going to cheat by using a piece of paper and kind of using just as a stencil and taking some notes. So what I did here was lay down and trace the front bumper, and then as it stands up, use a very thin ruler, straight edge, to mark where the tire's toe was, and then used simple RPM camber gauge to measure the camber of both front tires. That should give me a very good baseline to help me get back to where I am right now. With that down, now what we're going to do, pop off the lower shock mount, pop off this ball stud off of the hub, and then we're going to come in here and take off this rear cross tie bar, pull it out, making sure that we're noting where we have any of our spacers. I have all my spacers in the rear because I was trying to lengthen my wheelbase as much as possible, plus it actually gives a little bit extra caster that way. Now, although it's going to be a little bit more work and a little bit of a pain, I'm actually going to do this one side of the car at a time. That way I can look over and double check myself as to what the settings are on the other side as I'm putting the new piece on. Clearly, I'm kind of nervous about screwing this up and really, throwing my alignment for a whack and then having to redo all of it, aren't I? Not sure if it's going to come across in the camera or not, but on this factory control arm, I've also made a number of modifications. I've ground down the back side of it here a lot to create extra clearance for the tire. Same thing here on the front, is I've taken a lot of material out here to make sure that as that tire came around, it didn't touch. So I'm going to be very curious how that compares to the new part. Looking at these new parts, I am guessing that they are sided because of the Redcat logo. That means up. Clamp bar right here at the bottom, that would go down. So that means this is the same as this is the left front. As I set these right on top of each other, it's going to be very important to look here and see what the differences are. There's a couple that are really important. So one, this new control arm, maybe a millimeter or so shorter than the old one. So that means you cannot just take a measurement from the end of the control arm to here, screw this into the new one at the same distance, and have the same setup. The other thing here is on the lower shock end, I had mine on the innermost mounting point. That is the same now as the outer mounting point. So if you want to, you can move your shock in even more, but you do not want to just say, okay, I was on the inside, so move it to the inside. That would be different again. So note that I'm probably going to move it to keep everything the same for now. I'm going to move this from my inside mounting point to the outside on the new part, and then I'm going to add, maybe it's 2, so I'm going to add about 2 millimeters to this lower length compared to what it was with the plastic original arm. The width looks exactly the same, so that means in order to keep my caster the same, it looks like I should be able to put all the spacers and everything back just like I had them. As I'm unscrewing this from the original control arm, I'm noting that it is righty-loosey, so I had the reverse thread portion into the control arm. That's not going to work on the new one, because the new one's threaded normal style, which means I need to take this apart and actually swap it around and make sure I have the correct end into the controller. With the turnbuckle coming in here, you have a little clamp screw here that's supposed to come in and hold it together, clamp this in, and kind of hold that tight. And I'll be honest, I have screwed that bad boy in about as much as I am comfortable doing, and I still have wiggle room up here. Now, once you mount everything, I mean, it's going to wiggle a little bit, but it's not going to move. But I am a little concerned about the fact that I can't get that to tighten up enough to where this will stop moving. Now, the good news is, even though this is not tight in this bottom arm, And you can still wiggle this back and forth pretty freely. It doesn't look like it makes any difference for like the suspension alignment or anything along those lines. So I think it's going to be fine. I'm going to now skip off over here to the other side and mirror it, doing all the exact same things, putting it on, and I'll let you know if I run into any specific issues on this side. And through the magic of video editing, the side is now done. It went together beautifully, just like the other side. I am going to still warn you a lot. This itty bitty little screw here, you need to be careful with it. It still does not allow this bottom turnbuckle to be tight, but it does just take the slop out. So you need to be very careful with that one. Yeah, and look at this. This is absolutely awesome now. So with the original plastic control arms, when the tire wanted to get here to basically 90 degrees, it wanted to rub. And this is now just the right dimension to where I am not getting any rubbing. And then that thing is literally about as 90 degrees as it gets. When we go the other way, before, I actually had to grind this portion of the control arm away in order to keep it to where this tire would not touch. And now there is no touching there whatsoever. It is clear, and actually what I'm probably going to end up doing is moving that shock in one more hole, because it can still just barely touch that shock when it gets in just the right position. It can still barely touch that shock. And if I move it in one hole, then it won't be able to. So this is, man, this is how they should have come from the factory. I wanted the plastic ones to look like this, because that is just about perfect. And honestly, that alone can be the whole reason why you get these as an upgrade compared to the stock plastic. Now I'm reconfirming compared to how I had my marks from my original setup, and it does look like that's just about right. So that adding a couple millimeters, adding 2 millimeters down here on the bottom, looks like it got me right back to where I was before. This dimension and the shock mounting locations, those are the only two dimensions you need to worry about as you put these on. If you add this 2 millimeters down here, it looks like you will be able to replicate your alignment that you had before you put those lower control arms. I hope that this video was useful for you. If you have any questions about how I did this, or what I did, or why I did it, then leave them down in the video comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. If you want to see anything else that I've done with the Redcat RDS, there's going to be a playlist popping up right here to your right. I hope to see you in one of those videos. Thank you and goodbye.